morning, this is Sharon Henry. I'm here today with my Schacht Sidekick spinning wheel. I'm going to show you a little bit about where you are told to oil it, and then I'm going to try to do a little spinning. So if you will, just bear with me. This is the oil that came with it. I'm calling it Schacht. I'm not quite certain how you pronounce that name, whether it's Schacht or Schacht. But anyway, it tells you to oil it where the bobbins and the drive shaft are at, where they fit together at. So that would be there and right here and on the footman. And you are out of the picture on the footman, so I'm going to raise it up and show you what the footman is. It's this right here. And the place that you oil it is right here. That's where the working parts are, the parts that turn around. There's one on each side, and I'm oiling them both. And that's all that it tells you to oil. It does say that it's already comes pre-oiled from the factory. So, in saying that, I've already spun some on it, and I wanted to start from scratch once with you, because when the bobbin that I put on to start with was already had a leader yarn on it, and I wanted to start without a leader yarn with you. And I had already spun one bobbin full of one of my club yarns, so I decided to get one of my yarns from my spinning box that I had received and start and let you start along with me as if it's just new to you. So this one here is from Alexandra's Crafts. I mentioned that in my video about the spinning box. I showed this yarn in it, and I'm going to bring this over there for you to see. Hopefully you can see it. And this is the yarn. And it says on here the name of the color is Cotton Candy. It's 100% Australian organic merino hand-dyed fiber. This is 1 ounce. 1 ounce. And it just feels so wonderful and fluffy. Anyway, this is what it looks like. This was from the May spinning box, my very first one. And when you spread it out like this, there's 2 ways that I could actually spin it. I could spin it off the end. Just start right there and start spinning. Or I can split it into several parts and spin it, and it will have a stripe repeat, I believe, more frequently. So I'm trying to make up my mind which one I want to do. What do you guys think? I've never spun from the end like this, from the top, and just make long repeats. So I think I'm going to, this time, do the way I'm used to. I split it in 2. Then I'm going to split this one again. Then I'm going to split this one in half again. I'm not going to pre-draft it. I'm going to see, I'm checking the staple length here to see how far apart to get my fingers, and I think right about, starting out right about there, which is about 3 to 4 inches. Now what I'm going to start out doing is I'm going to try to make me a leader yarn out of this, because that way I can knit right up to the last bit of the yarn. And what I do, I'm going to pull it out far enough as if I was going to spin, and I'm actually putting some twist in it. And as soon as I get enough twist, I'm going to insert my hook, my threading hook from the spinner, which is stored here on the front maidenhead, and I get it all twisted every time. I'm going to take this and put through the orifice, the hole at the back of the orifice, and pull some of this yarn. I've never done this part before, but I've seen it done, and I'm going to try it. So I got that through there. No, I think I'm doing this backwards. I know I am. First of all, got to get it on the bobbin. See? Learned something. All right. And what I'm going to do is just wrap it around the bobbin, the very first bit, and just tie it in a little bit of a square knot. That's the first that I twisted. I may have to wrap that a little tighter or hold on to it, but I'm twisting it as I go, and I'm pulling out, drafting out. And then when I get a long enough piece, I'm going to pull it all the way out. I don't think I'm doing this right. All right, and I'm going to break it. And then that way I go through the orifice from the front, through the hole, and grab the yarn, the leader yarn that I've made or attempted to make, and pull it through. And I'm going to hand turn this to try to put, and it didn't work. You can see it didn't work. It's because I did it too thin, I believe. I'm going to do a thicker piece this time. As if I was trying to do it as if I was going to spin a lace weight yarn, because that's what I intend to try to spin. And I got it too thin. So I'm doing it thicker this time. And I believe that's what I needed to do. I'm still letting it drift apart. I'm just not sure what it is I'm doing wrong. I probably should have done a double yarn. It's not working. I'm going to take that off and try again. I don't like wasting my good yarn, good fiber, I mean. I guess I'm determined to learn something new. When I get this through, I think I'm going to use my wheel and spin on it and put extra twist on it before I try to add any yarn. to it. Oh, well, my dry band, I loosened it by putting it down and letting it rest when I was finished before and forgot to start it back up again. I see, I twisted it and twisted it in two. Well guys, I think I'm going to quit trying with this and just get another liter yarn, because I don't want to be wasting a lot of my fiber. So if you'll hold on just a minute, I'll get a liter yarn. This is a project I'm working on right here. Have some scissors right here. I should have some loose yarn in here that I can use. Right here's some. Okay. Now I'm going to put this around my wheel. I'll try that other idea later and see if I can get it perfected. I'm going to tie it like twice, and that way it should be tight enough that it'll turn when I need it to. And I'm going to put it through the hooks and thread it with my thread hook through the orifice hole. Orifice and the hole at the back. Now then, I'm ready. And what I like to do is tie a loop right here, and that way I can put a little fold of my yarn in this little loop. I hope you can see that. My camera is a little far away. All right. I'm going to pre-draft the first little bit before I get started. And what I have done is, I know my wheel needs to go this way, out that way, clockwise. So I'm getting started, and let's see how it takes up. I was talking and not paying attention to how the wheel is taking up, how thick my yarn is. I think I do mostly what's called a short forward draw. And as I said, I try to put a little extra twist in this because I'm making it very thin for a lace weight yarn. At least that's my intentions. But I'm new at this. I'm not experienced. I have usually spun on a hand spinner, drop spindle, and I have a Turkish spindle that I like. It's really heavy, and I can't make, because of the heaviness of it, I have a little difficulty doing a lace weight yarn on it. It's more of a DK weight or worsted weight. I think that's what they would call it, worsted weight. Anyway, this is working pretty good. It's beautiful yarn. I know you're not interested in watching me spin a long time, especially it seems as though I'm pretty far away from the camera. I'm going to stop here in a minute and bring the camera up maybe a little closer where you just can see my hands working. And while I'm stopping, there is a knob control lever on this side that I've wound my yarn around a little bit, or my fiber, and pause it. Okay, I'm going to pause the camera and bring you closer. All right, I've brought you closer and I'm going to let you watch as I turn my flyer very gently. I don't like to be very rough with it. Turn it to the right. Right now I've got a little bit too much staple length and I'm unfolding it, unwinding it so I can pull a little better. My twist has gotten into my yarn farther up than I want it to be. So I've got to find out where my staple length is, and it looks like it's about right there. Okay, and with just one foot I was able to get that started in the right direction. It was very well balanced, this Sidekick spinning wheel is. Very stable. And when you get to spinning a little faster with this travel bobbin, I'm not sure what's making the singing sound. It just seems to sing to me. Maybe it doesn't to others, but as you can see, it's very beautiful, but very beautiful yarn, and it makes me think of blueberry sherbet ice cream. I love these colors, and I'm not sure what it's going to spin up like as far as colors. And when I'm done with it, I may ply it with another similar colorway yarn or a totally opposite. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with it once I get it spun up as far as plying it. I like the idea of chain plying it to keep the repeats closer together and not have as much barber pulling. And what that is when you barber pull, it's like when you take two plies. Say if you took a red one and a blue one, and you red and blue singles, and you plied them together as a two ply, you would get a striped yarn, red and blue. When you take these multicolor yarns and you do a two ply with them after you've spun them like this into singles, you still get a striped effect, but it blends the colors better because you're using the same yarn, and it depends on how strongly the colors are plied. And by the way, I'm using the fast whirl that came with my Sidekick, and you get two whirls with it. You get a medium and a fast, and I started out with the medium but did not spin on it. And probably if I wanted more twist, this faster one is giving me more twist, which is what I wanted, and because of it being a thin ply yarn. If I spun on the slower, which is the larger whirl, I would probably get less twist and would have a thicker yarn. I would probably do a DK weight or worsted weight in it, or woolen. I'm not sure. I'd have to look and see. I don't remember whether it's woolen or worsted. I think that depends on your technique. One puts more air into the actual single, and the other one puts a little less and is more smooth and compact. I would have to look and see. I can't tell you right now. If I look it up later, I may put it in the on the video explaining what I found to be the difference. Now whether I let some of the twist get back in my drafting area. The drafting area is the spot between your two hands. And as you can see, I'm taking my left hand and pulling. At the same time, I pull backwards just a little bit with my right hand, so mine may be a modified short forward draw drafting technique. Sometimes I just pull back with my right hand and let my left hand hold it, and that's more of your backward draw technique, which I think makes woolen weight yarn. But again, I'll have to look that up. but I like to push forward. I guess you could say it's push forward. I'm actually pulling the yarn a little with my left hand, thumb and finger, and letting it build twist in front of that, and then letting it go in when I think it's about ready. Sometimes on purpose I let the draft get in between, into my drafting zone between my two fingers, if I have a thin spot there that I'm afraid is getting too thin. As you can see, I'm at the end of that section, so I'm going to drop my yarn, my singles, off of the first hook and put it on the second one. I guess I'm calling that the second one, and it's actually depends on how you're looking at it. And I'm going to join, and how I join is I just leave a little bit at the end, draft a little out of my next section. Hope you can see that and it's not off the camera. I hold them together like this, and I try to let it not be up and down, but to come sideways like this. And as the twist builds up in this piece, it will catch that and wrap it around. You watch. See how it wrapped it? The only thing is you got to be careful because you will get thick spots. So you've got to be sure that the two together is about what you want as far as your diameter or thickness of yarn. Broke my yarn. That happens sometimes in spinning. Happens many times, especially when you're new to it, like I am on a spinning wheel. It happens on a drop spindle pretty frequently for me. I actually drop the spindle. That's why it's called a drop spindle. People do that. And what I do is I spread my yarn out. If there's any really gnarly spots there, I would break them off and throw them away. But with this, I think I can just fluff it back out, add this piece to it. This is a little thicker. It's not pre-drafted, and I usually pre-draft my yarns when they're new to me. When the yarn is new to me, I'll pre-draft it in order to get the feel for it, so I don't have as many breaks. But this yarn is slipping pretty nicely. It's not, it's very smooth. It's very soft, but it does have a little grab to it that I can feel. So that makes it actually easier for me spinning. The slicker yarns to me, the silkier ones or those with silk in them, sometimes I have a little difficulty with those, I've noticed. And it's me. I have a lot of arthritis in my hands, and I'm inexperienced with this. My biggest problem is, I have two problems, I think, with spinning. I know what I want to spin. I want to spin some lace weight or fine weight yarn, sock weight yarn. I'm pleased with either one of those. And because I like shawls and I like socks, that's what I like to make. And when I want to use the DK weight or the thicker yarns, I like to make baby hats and donate them at the hospital. But my problems seem to be, I guess I could name three, and I broke it again. I'm probably trying to talk and do this at the same time. You can see how it's kinking. I either get too much twist, not enough twist, or I let my yarn get too thin, which is what I let it do there, or too thick. But through trial and error and doing things over again and making mistakes and learning to correct them, that's actually how you learn to spin, I guess. I often wonder about the very first people who spun or made yarn. I haven't researched it, but I'd kind of like to. I wonder sometimes if it happened kind of, well, it probably did happen by accident that they learned to spin. And the reason I say that, I think fire was probably another thing that was discovered by accident, probably from lightning striking a tree. Of course, I don't know. I believe in God, and God probably gave man the knowledge in one way or another to create fire. And you know, I think he uses nature, such as the lightning. When I was a young girl, I remember I worked in the cotton fields. Well, I was, at the time that I remember this, I was too little to be actually working in the cotton fields. My mother was working in the cotton field, and I rode her cotton sack when she would be picking cotton. I would lay on it and look up at the cotton bolls. And now and then when she would pull and I'd be getting sleepy, I can remember pulling off locks of that cotton and taking it and twisting it in my fingers and being amazed that I was making string. I didn't realize then that really was spinning, but I was fascinated by it at that young age, and probably I was no more than 3 or 4 years old. But I do remember that. It's a hazy memory, but I can see it to this day, just twisting that cotton and picking the seeds out and throwing them away and being amazed at the softness and the fluffiness of it. And just spinning it around in my hands. And I don't know if I might have remembered my grandmother, great-grandmother, someone spinning yarn, and maybe that's what I was thinking of. I don't have any memory of any of my people, my family, my mother or my grandmother's spinning. But my mother was a seamstress. I do remember that. She would sew and make all of our clothes and made them out of sacks that our flour came in, and they were very pretty skirts and things made. They were very patterned with roses and edgings on them, and they were beautiful skirts, and I was very happy with them. So I remember her sewing and all, but I do not remember anyone in my family spinning or creating yarn in any way or messing with fibers to create yarn. But I did have a sister who's 8 years older than me that knitted, and I watched her when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I can remember watching her knitting, and she was still a young girl, and begging her to show me how to knit. I just was fascinated by someone who would use 2 sticks and make a blanket. I just couldn't get over how fascinating that was. Some kind of a child I was, huh? Anyway, she did show me how. I learned to knit. Probably by the time I was 9 years old, I could knit, and I knew the main stitches, and I could actually make a scarf. I didn't know what I was making, just a long piece of fabric out of the knitted material. Then I became a teenager, and I guess I forgot all about that with the things a teenager does. And I was married at a very young age, 16 years old when I got married, and I lived in a country, and we didn't have any phone, and I had a couple of small children. When they were small, I had a lot of time on my hands and decided I needed hobbies. And my mother-in-law had gotten a little book called Work Basket, I believe was the name of a book back then, and it was a little small book, kind of this, not much bigger than a postcard as far as the size of it, but it was thick, and it had all kinds of crochet patterns and stuff in it. And I had those books of hers that I would look at, and I got so interested that finally I got me a subscription to it. And there was a yarn shop in our hometown, and I went and picked up me some yarn, some crochet hooks, and I crocheted. Back then it was more of the crochet thread, like you made tablecloths and doilies and things like that, well, and collars. Well, I wanted to knit. I still remembered those days of when I knitted and how fascinated I was with the yarn and the knitting. So I got some knitting needles and a book to teach me how to knit. learning how to knit, and the reason I did that was I'd kind of forgot how to cast on and how to actually do the stitches, so I got started again and I haven't ever wanted to stop. And from the knitting and the fascination with the yarns, I got into spinning. Can't really tell you even when I started learning how to spin, but I just had always had a fascination for yarns, so I decided to do it. Well, I'm going to turn off the video now and do a little spinning, and when I get something accomplished here, get to the end, or where I've got some on my bobbin to show you, I will come back.